Welcome to the RANT, and it's Hawkesbury today. It's Adelaide Cup Day, and Glenn's at Hawkesbury. But Gord, the man of the match, has turned up to collect his trophy.
Thank you very much. I knew he had to go to Hawkesbury and miss the show today because he would have been having withdrawals after the poker tournament on Saturday, wouldn't he? So.
For sure. Unfortunately, Glenn, well, as you can imagine, he bombed out on Saturday and might have been in time to catch a few races, but certainly didn't make it out to Rosehill.
I think that would have been a bad mental state to be in when you lose the majority of your chips. Ace, you've got kings, and somebody calls you with ace queen, and they get you.
Right. So what's the future hold for the pullet and the poker? Will he return to his day job?
Yes, he will, but I think he's got a taste because he started to play in some of these bigger tournaments now, and as you know, he says that he's 10 lengths better than anybody else as far as form analysis is concerned.
I think he's at 100 actually. You've divided it by 10.
10, oh, really? Well, he thinks he's that much better at poker as well, but let's hope he can get a little bit of luck in the near future.
You do actually need to think that about when you're playing any game. You actually need to believe that you are.
If you're not walking out on the pitch thinking you're good, you're never going to go well.
Yeah, you really need that confidence. Confidence was, well, you were confident about Saturday and had the result to back that up. What are you saying about what happened on Saturday? Do you have a general comment about the form?
General comment for me is I think Rosehill is just a really good track to bet at because you're not looking at any major bias, so you're just trying to find what you think is the best horse.
Which is always reassuring, isn't it? There's nothing worse than being spooked by a bias, and I mean, the idea is not to be spooked at any stage and to hold your nerve and all that, but obviously there are situations where you're betting and it's just like, it was like last week at Randwick where Frolics just rounded up the odds-on chance down the outside. And you went, oh shit! You know, there was something about it that turned over the apple cart.
Like there's different ways to skin a cat. I think you should work out what you're good at and take advantage of it because there are people out there that can do magnificent adjustments when they spot bias, particularly on wetter tracks, and make plenty of money out of it. So if that's you go, that's you go. It's not my go.
It seems to me that the adjusters tend to be people with fewer preconceived ideas about the form.
I'd say that's a definite advantage, yeah. But I think you're pretty good at doing it too. You got the best of both worlds, mate.
Anyway, look, I thought the track played quite well. I know that Picture Form thought that Off the Rail in the Straight was favoured. That was true to some extent, but it wasn't a foregone thing. I mean, we saw it somewhat actually get up underneath them to win, stick his neck out as you forecast he might, Gord. Tavago in a 2,000 metre race where the favourite Antonio Giuseppe is perhaps the favourite worth talking about on the card, where it was his race to lose, and midway or early to midway through the race he was already in what I describe as an invidious position, doing a lot of chasing.
The fact that the horse put the pace on and meant that he was going to be trying a little bit too hard to stay close in his position just put him in a really awkward spot. I'd be forgiving him that run.
Right, but do we want to see him not race with his head on the side? I mean, that seems alarming to me.
No. Who was it that used to be on the show that always commented on the position, head carriage position? Was it Matt Taylor won?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. But it's something you can see in trials as well. Some horses have the tendency to do it. God, it costs them a lot of distance when they do it, though. It costs them a lot of lengths.
Well, they're not racing truly. You could see once he commenced his run in the straight and his head went straight to the side that he was all out. Okay, so we kicked off with race one, where there's probably only one horse to follow. The O'Shea produced a French horse by the name of Spectroscope, and he rounded them up despite the fact that the pace was fairly slow. Extensible made her run with him, and he clearly outpointed her in the finish. Is there any future for Extensible?
Well, I noticed that as far as times are concerned, and we've talked about this before, where do we give it a tick or how do we play it with Spectroscope I'm talking about, because those O'Shea horses tend to be quite cute, don't they? So if they can be sort of somewhere near there off a soft tempo and then blow them away at the end, how are they going to go when the pace is on? Well, if you were just going off times, you'd say, oh, well, they'll blow them away when the pace is on. But it tends not to be the case all the time because some of them are a little bit cute.
Yeah, look, you have to be quite wary with older horses from the O'Shea establishment. They seem to quickly be exposed and have nowhere to go after that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're loving him fresh, obviously. And I think soft tempo, rattling down, looking impressive. I'm confused.
Yeah, well, look, you want to see him in a similar sort of situation. You don't really want to test him in an alternative scenario. Race 2, again won by First Upper Artistry, came from the back. Dothraki had the race shot to bits, as he so often has.
Head on the side yet again.
Yeah, this is nowhere to go for Dothraki. Ball of Muscle seems a lot of previous days. In fact, it looks another winner-only race. Then we came to the meat of the card, which is obviously 2-year-old races, which were last gasp for the slipper. And Single Bullet took on the very heavily backed Ducimus, who had 2 Victorian wins to his credit, and ground him into the turf court.
I think Single Bullet was the best run in the race and won, but obviously, Ducimus overperformed what I expected with Melbourne stuff.
Yeah.
And as with Tulip in the next race, I'm not sure how I line up that Single Bullet stuff because, I was loving it for a race like this, but to go up to A grade, I don't think so.
Yeah, that race just looks a little hollow, and Ducimus, for example, will be 4th run first prep next time, and I think he's played all his cards. The Fillies race actually produced better figures and better margins. Tulip sat on the speed, just off the speed, a little wide, and managed to round up Alizé, who looked the winner.
Well, I liked Alizé, and I still think it was a good run, but then it got beaten by a Melbourne horse.
Right.
Look, so I'm just saying the 2 runs there. I know there's not, Catchy has to be a serious chance in the slipper. Now, am I going to be able to get over the fact that it's out of the Blue Diamond?
So on Friday, you're turning up here and you're a chance to tip a pen job. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I can't do it, and I'd love to do it, and I'll probably regret it after.
I don't know. There's a bit of a case for DF, and Tulip brought her DF because the form was Limbo Soul, who'd won impressively, but on the money all the way on a 7-metre rail at Rosehill, and Sweet Deal, who did some work in the restricted sale race that won by Frolics, who bloused her, and she came back to the inside after having 2 fairly tough runs. So maybe there was definitely a chink there that could have been spotted before the race. I didn't see that, but I'm certainly saying it was there after the race.
Well, the chink for me was Limbo Soul, but it was a suspicion. I talked about it with you and just thought when something that strongly backed in a Wednesday race, they've really given it everything to sort of take out the race. And would there be any improvement on that, which you would expect a 2-year-old second up to give? And well, it wasn't there, was it?
Yeah, it's a very, very good point that you make. The Antonio Giuseppe race, we've already touched on it earlier, but I guess there's a lot of interest in this race from the point of view of these stayers that turn up, every 6 months in the, headed towards the Sydney Cup.
Yep.
And they didn't do a great deal. I suppose Libran ground home okay. Allergic Fit Horse ran the best race. And
more importantly, Mark, the Sweaty Spirit. That's the one we need to talk about because we've been getting smashed online.
No, looked a great run on Saturday, Lord.
Yes.
Oh? Outstanding run on a Skitty Spirit. All that chasing, and she was quickly beaten off, but then she was coming again. I'd suggest if they could find a 4,000 metre race for the Skitty Spirit, that might be in order.
Oh my God, it's going to come again, isn't it? Oh wow. Well, you know me. 2,000 metre race where they're actually looking to get over the 3,200 metres eventually. Not going to have much of an opinion there.
Okay, so what about the winner then? Tavago has He's won by 3.25 lengths.
So, yeah, but let's say Tavago and Antonio Giuseppe race against each other next start.
Yeah, well, that's a conundrum, isn't it?
Because you've got the SB anchor.
Well,
I don't know, that's more a question
Tavago
for
is
you,
going to
so-
go into the 2,400 metre race, the Tancred, I'd suggest, in 2 weeks. Antonio Giuseppe may head to that race. He may head elsewhere. I'm not exactly up on programs, but that race illustrates very much the case of beauty's in the eye of the beholder. People who love to follow horses' programs through these.
Yep.
Through these carnivals, did you see who shot the barman? He was just warming up nicely late. And they do nothing for me. I'm not a horse program follower.
But I mean, you've obviously got more of an idea about it than I do, because this is why I don't get engaged in these distance races, because they do that nice run and come 6th or 5th, and it's just not. I want to see something. I want to see something dynamic in a horse if I'm going to entertain it next start. And it can be just about getting the distance in the legs as far as distance racing is concerned, and I've not got a good handle on that.
Okay, so we'll leave those particular methods to others. The horse I really want to talk about next is Foxplay, who did some very, very strange things in her race. Like she had lengths on that field, as was demonstrated by the circumstance of the race. It was horrid the way that McAvoy was riding her ears off at the 600 metre mark.
I always think that if a horse has to try that hard to stay in touch, it's not a good sign for next start, even if they are explosive late. I think the factor is more due to the rest of the field
falling over. They went fast.
Yeah.
There's some fairly dodgy conveyances in the race. A particularly dodgy conveyance is Beazle, who has just not. He has not wanted to run in his two starts this time in. Another dodgy Godolphin horse.
So, I mean, did we ever? I mean, I know the market sort of had some sort of opinion of it, but we did we?
Yeah, I know, but you're still not supposed to turn up in a race and just not compete.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Foxplay looks a dodgy commodity at her next
It all
start.
depends on the price, because I say that assuming that next start she's going to be quite solidly found. Or if not, then I can entertain. But if she is going to be hard in the market in a high standard race, then I'll be against.
Is it a pox on the others? I mean, Zenalicious and Comic Set have been fairly
I'd said in the
close
previous
to
up, there's only one horse in there. Right? The rest are just midweekers.
Right.
So grade 1.
Yeah, well, look, whenever I see a horse win like that, it's a definite black mark on the others. They're clearly just going up and down in the one spot. The main race, the Coolmore, it was game on. It was it was fast and furious betting action, and then Global Glamour took it up, and the two runners that sat astern of her, outside her, Daisy Doom and Silent Sedition, were both in the finish.
Yeah, so they up too long.
Global Glamour?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gone over the top.
Yeah.
Which I suppose you could have seen in her previous start.
But then you're thinking gay, you know what I mean? Then
Well,
you're thinking, maybe one more.
Yeah, it's always a bit. It's a bit
Sorry, I should say gay and bot, shouldn't I?
Gay
I
bot.
should
Gay bot.
Gay bot.
So yeah, Silent Sedition, Gord, looked an amazing run in that race. Is that a bad sign for the race?
Well, it is Melbourne stuff, isn't it?
She's a very consistent mare. She's only missed the place once of her 15 starts, I think.
I'm saying a no. Look, it's all confusing because of the first 6 placings in this particular race. What I'm going to take about it, I don't know. Heavens above is the kind of horse that can always do something like that, so I understand that. Silent Sedition, I'm saying, I'll say horse with some serious ability to do that in that environment, off not the best grounding, be lightly raced, means to me that I don't know. Like, how confusing is that race? I
It
don't know
is.
what to make of it.
I almost saw it bled in the race, but with the benefit of hindsight, you're thinking she could never win from that position. So he's drawn 19, he's going to go back there, and he's got to actually round up a lot of very, very well performed, not that likeable, but a lot of well performed mares.
Yeah, but you could make the argument that Ome Store might have been a champion.
Maybe. I haven't seen too much. Like Extreme Choice won a race against the older horses in the spring, the Moonee Valley race, but they've looked a little disappointing. Certainly in the autumn, they've failed in the Lightning, failed in the Oakley Plate, failed in the Newmarket. We've seen Oh My Sword, Global Glamour, and there was another 3-year-old there somewhere, wasn't there? La Bella Diosa, who was coughing post-race and ran last.
Yeah. Well, the Bella Diosa New Zealand horse wins on heavy 10. Maybe it's just a wetty. I don't really have much to say about it.
No, it's one of those classic handicaps that you know the winner got a sweet run. She's the sort of horse that going around at that price you think, well, you just have to be on her. But anyway, the Ajax Stakes, a number of horses trying to resurrect. He's our Rocky, seemed to have every chance. Dibiani was dreadful.
Well, thank you for putting up He's Our Rocky favourite too, because it provided plenty of value elsewhere, didn't it?
New Tipperary, I think, is the horse we need to talk about in this race.
No, it's a horse to follow.
He had the blinkers on Saturday and he jumped out well, and then Abdallah got caught, didn't he? He ended up in a shitty spot, and he really knuckled down in the straight. He wanted the race and just got beaten by
Fresh O'Shea
that had a bit of zip and got up underneath him to beat him. So yes, he looks a serious horse, New Tipperary. And then the last race, well, it's best forgotten, isn't it? I mean, Hogmanay has won his third race at Rosehill. He's led all the way. Well, he sat outside the lead in one race, but he had the benefit of the 2,000 metre run. He's come back to 1900 at Rosehill. He's managed to outgame the horse that sat on his back all the way. Veladero was very soft in the betting and worked and dropped out, and Winebush was very dour.
Well, thank you, all corporates out there, for making Winebush favourite in that race. It was much appreciated.
They would have been.
What about when they're 260, 270 around the ring? It's like, Jesus, if I was bookmaking, bloody hell.
I know, those things, they look remarkable, don't they?
Yeah.
That's the meeting from Rosehill. Opening day at Rosehill for the carnival. We'll see a different rail position and probably different racing this Saturday. And we've also got to put up with a serious rain event tomorrow, which will send the track at least back to where it was last Saturday. So that's Golden Slipper Day coming up this Saturday. That's the end of part one.